Hey guys, I'm in Detroit, and Ron DeSantis has dropped out. Down goes Ron DeSantis. Down goes Ron DeSantis. Down goes Ron DeSantis. So why did he drop out? That's the airport behind me right there. Obviously he was losing. He was losing badly, but the main reason is it's 2 days before New Hampshire, and he was going to get walloped in New Hampshire, not just by Donald Trump, but by Nikki Haley. He had lost his status as the main challenger to Donald Trump, so he didn't want to get humiliated in New Hampshire. And South Carolina is a state after New Hampshire, and that's where Nikki Haley is, of course, from, and she was the governor of South Carolina. So she had actually kind of turned it into a two-person race, with Nikki Haley being the main option against Donald Trump. Now, DeSantis had a pact called Never Back Down. Oops. Okay. And so why didn't his campaign succeed overall? Because, one, he's not a very good politician, right? I mean, and the fake smile and the head bobble and all the awkward things he does. And, you know, the right wing, sometimes they can really get at somebody in a way that, if you're not used to it, can rock your world. And I think that they kind of did that. It got under his skin a little bit. And this is a tiny thing, but it's just emblematic of how they started making fun of his boots and how he's got lifters in his boots. But he's so awkward, he can't even respond to that. Hey, no, I'm not using it. Or maybe he was. Who knows? Like, that's not the important part. The important part is he got super flustered, and he didn't know how to react to any of these political attacks, whether they were like MAGA troll attacks, whether they were establishment asking him questions about Disney. He just had no answer. But even more important than him being apparently a pretty terrible politician once he had a significant spotlight on him, is that he didn't know where he was going. He was trying to straddle the fence between, hey, I'm all MAGA and I'm for all the most vicious, policies that we have. In fact, Trump's not vicious enough, but I'm not going to criticize Trump. I'm not going to criticize Trump. Well, brother, you're running against him. So the idea that you weren't going to criticize him was never going to work. So unsurprisingly, it didn't. And if you're trying to jump from one cliff to another, you better not half jump. And that's what Ron DeSantis did. So he was trying to give a case for why he's better than Donald Trump without saying why he was better than Donald Trump. That was for like 90% of the campaign. At the end there, he was like, oh, right, I'm running against him. And part of the reason that they do that is because they're too cautious. And that's an advantage that Donald Trump has. He's not from that, class of studied politicians who've been taught a lot of BS from political consultants, right? So DeSantis, if he loses, still wants to be in the good graces of Trump world, MAGA, and he thinks maybe I might be able to run again, etc. Because all these politicians are careerists. All they care about is their careers and status and ego, etc. But the problem is that when you're running a presidential campaign, you have to go 200%, especially if you're the underdog, especially in a situation where Trump has such a lock on these voters that you've got to somehow break. So you can't have your feet in both camps. I mean, part of the reason Nikki Haley is basically the last one left here for the Republicans is because she at least jumped all the way to the other side. And she's like, look, let's keep it real. And DeSantis mentioned this in his exit video. She represents the corporate world. Now, DeSantis is an enormous hypocrite when it comes to that, because he also represents the corporate world. He just thinks he's better at faking it. I mean, where did Never Back Down get all their money? Okay, where did Ron DeSantis get all of his money throughout his career? It's not a rhetorical question. I know. They get it from giant corporations. So as he's criticizing companies like Disney for going woke, he's taken giant amounts of cash. But is it true that Nikki Haley is the main representative of corporate establishment Republicans? Absolutely. But at least she knows her lane. So now we're down to these two lanes. And as DeSantis is dropping out, of course, the main question everybody has is, yes, but who's it going to help, right? So look, you guys know we got the live show. We break it down for you every day, Monday through Friday, on the Young Turks, right here on this channel. YouTube.com/The Young Turks, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll have a lot more details tomorrow too. But the main question is, does it help Trump or Haley? Well, Nikki Haley thinks that it might help her, and some of her supporters do, for two reasons. Number one, because she becomes the main non-Trump alternative. So there are a bunch of voters who definitely don't want Trump, and they weren't sure who they're going to support. Well, now they know. They're going to support Nikki Haley, right? On the other hand, Ronda Santis endorsed Donald Trump on his way out. Again, he thinks Donald Trump's going to win, and he was actually pretty clear about it, because he said, I think the Republican voters are saying that they want Donald Trump, and I don't want to disagree with them, basically. Not so much that he thought Donald Trump was great. Yeah, he took a shot at Nikki Haley, but overall, he's basically saying, I submit to the Republican voters. They clearly want Trump. But of course, the real reason is he wants to get back in their good graces. He'll now go and assume the normal position, which is at Donald Trump's feet or ass or whatever you'd like to call it. But he will now begin to his service to Donald Trump, the emperor. And he'll be a servile dog to him, right? Just like Vivek was as soon as he lost and endorsed Trump, etc. So he endorses Trump, but Nikki Haley's the main alternative. But the thing that Nikki Haley is most excited about in terms of this exit is that now she gets to scoop up all of the DeSantis donors as well, because not very many of those donors were going to Trump. So she's and Nikki Haley's whole world revolves around donors. That's the only thing she cares about. So she's super excited to vacuum up those donors, no matter what happens. So last thing here, guys. So DeSantis is gone, and man, did he flame out! Just an awful run. Republicans, Democrats, everybody agrees it was an awful run. He might be done for his career. This is his second and last term as Florida. He'll run as a senator. He'll run for a million things. Maybe he gets a cabinet post. But I mean, his chance of winning the presidency has diminished greatly going forward not just because he lost to Trump, which is understandable in the Republican primary, but because he ran such a lousy campaign, right? But the main question is, does Nikki Haley have a chance now that it's a one-on-one race? She said the usual unbearable things that she says. She's like, now it's down to one fella and one lady. I don't know why you say things like that. That's so awkward, and it doesn't help you with anyone. Anyways, I don't know, guys. There's a couple of polls that say Nikki Haley's close. One's got her at 4 behind. The other one's got her tied. Other polls say otherwise. It's too uncertain for me to be able to tell how she's going to do in New Hampshire. She's the governor of South Carolina, but she's trailing Trump. But at least she's got a shot, theoretically, she was the governor. So, but the next two, this I do know. New Hampshire and South Carolina will decide it. If Trump blows her out in both, this thing's over. It's over before it even started. Trump's the nominee, and now he's in the middle of 4 giant cases and a couple civil cases, and he's the Republican nominee for sure if that's what happens. And that is a disaster, potentially for the Republican Party, although I'm not at all sure about that, but it's definitely a disaster for the country. So, on the other hand, if Nikki Haley actually does pull off an upset in New Hampshire or comes really close and does better than expected in South Carolina, then maybe we have a race. But at least now we know the final two on the Republican side are Donald Trump and Nikki Haley.